Hello everyone and welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Cockingzai. Just preface before we even start, we have lots of great images, lots of great comparisons. This is a multi-level thing, so wait and stay tuned before you have a reaction audience, okay? We've got lots of good stuff that Stu hasn't seen yet, but I think he knows where we're going. What are we talking about today, Stuart? That's my preface.
Well, we're talking about Rule of Acquisition 843, because I'm sure there's been a lot added in 930 years. And that is, to look like a Ferengi, you must become the Ferengi. What? I don't know. Well, no, I don't know what I'm thinking.
No, you're forgetting Rule of Acquisition number 44,213. Discovery always visually reboots. Iseth the law. I said to someone online, Discovery is the visual reboot. Always expect it, never expect anything else. Picard is a hybrid. Some things faithful, some things reboot. And Lower Decks is fully canon, fully faithful, fully like how you expect it to look. So no one should be surprised at this Ferengi, but it is odd considering how good the Morn and the Classians looked. But yeah, we have a Ferengi. He's right there, and it's taken the internet by storm.
Yeah, and speaking of hybrid, you did mention hybrid. My thoughts on this, just out of the gate, real quick. I just want to get them out there.
Yeah, the first reaction.
This is 930 years in the future. There's been a lot of interspecies mingling going on, as we see with the Federation president being part Cardassian. Very toned down facial features. Could be that this guy is part Riemann by the looks of the ears. Could be that he's part Vulcan because of the tips on the ears. Could be a lot of things. His DNA could not be 100% Ferengi. So let's not freak out, everybody. But that being said, you are right. Discovery likes to visually reboot things, especially the Klingons. That's the biggest one. We're all shell-shocked from that. And we got a lot of PTSD, as you said earlier, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, of course, everybody was jumping all over this. However, the caveat is they've been a member of the Federation for who knows how long at this point. So his ancestors could have been, who knows what. And just over the course of centuries, literally, DNA changes. And, when you get other species mixed in there, yeah.
Now, briefly, and there's lots to talk about on this, even before we get to the full graphics. I love the way you said part of the Federation. Wouldn't that be a lovely symbol and statement if, even after the collapse and the burn, they didn't waver? That of all the people, Ferengi stayed Federation bound, and we just didn't hear them because they hadn't written that yet. Wouldn't that be lovely? Like, they came so far, etc. Now, and also, my first reaction was, oh, the caveat being the future, anything is more permissible because you've got that stretch of time. So it's not, nothing is an issue as much as it used to be. It just needs some logic. Obviously, the caveat to it looks so different. Cause he's not a great looking Ferengi. Like, it's one of the less good Ferengis we've seen. We've seen quite a few, but that's neither here nor there. Obviously Ferengis you wouldn't think would have changed much in the sort of 4, 5, 6,000 years before space travel. Like, people don't change that quickly in terms of basic facial features. But then you said also the interbreeding between different races. You wouldn't think there'd be almost any at TNG. But as soon as Rom came in and made it more whatever, that happened. And obviously, if the burn made them stay at Ferengi for 100 years, then that isn't going to continue. But this guy, you assume, Nog and Rom, all the more progressives, they would continue that lineage. And if they stayed in power, this guy might be the, 19th great granddad of Rom, which means you already started with Ferengi and Bajoran, and then it kind of keep... I mean, the fact that this Ferengi is choosing to be in Starfleet, and a captain, I believe, says he's one of the more progressives of the progressive, so it's fine with him being a hybrid of many things. I love the Riemann because that even creates even more division, or connection. So it's good conceptually, but obviously you need a line somewhere because they've never met Ferengi. Burnham, he can say, "Oh yeah, I'm only quarter Ferengi on my grandmother's side. I'm actually..." That would help save it a lot because he's clearly not a Ferengi. He's a Ferengi mixed with da. Like, he doesn't really pass as a full Ferengi. But as long as they make a joke out of that, then it'll be fun and fine.
Almost not referencing it at all be better, because why would you have to explain that kind of stuff? Especially to Burnham, who's never seen a Ferengi.
Well, it's an offhand joke to someone else. Like, it's a... Yeah. But it means you can have normal Ferengi as well. Like, then you get to have the unique one, and then the classic one, you get to have your cake and eat it too.
One of the other things that's quite noticeable from this picture is his teeth. Obviously not Ferengi teeth, which again speaks to maybe interspecies mingling. So I'm not too concerned about this. That could also be just Discovery makeup crew just being Discovery.
But it's tricky because if you took this uniform away and you took away the strap, it could just be a random alien with big ears.
The nose is Ferengi though, like clearly.
Yeah, but I mean, elven elves and Vulcans. I mean, you can have things that combine. If this was in if this was in the Expanse, you wouldn't say, oh, they've ripped off Ferengi. You'd say that gives me Ferengi vibes, but the way it doesn't connect, it's far enough away to be a departure. It was close enough to be in the context. But this is when we get into the different conversation. So here, or the depth. So here's the first graphic, and this shows the time frame that we did see some Ferengis. We've got to get some context here. Start with the start. We saw them in Enterprise, we saw them in TNG, and then we saw them right at the end. So 220 years, this is the evolution. I mean, actually extremely consistent, considering that this is, 3 shows worth of design. Boy, the makeup team was like straight on the ball, even from their very first. I mean, the ears a little bit higher up, but I mean, it's super faithful.
Well, just different part of Ferenginar. Even the nose, like the nostrils on Quark, are different than the other ones. It's a facial feature. It changes from person to person, area to area. So yeah, they're very insular. Then they're Ferengi 100%. So
well, most races were. You got to get a long time past space travel. You wouldn't expect. I mean, even having a Vulcan Romulan hybrid was a bit odd. How many 100 years after? So the next picture obviously compares them. We get to see, obviously 100 years later is fine. Clearly, again, like I said, similar but not. They've detailed it, but it's kind of taken away the clarity of the Ferengi. The Ferengi aren't meant to be all these grooves.
It could be an old Ferengi too. We also don't know his age. He's a captain.
That's the other thing, Stuart. That's the real thing. The next picture is the life cycle of a Ferengi and the new Ferengi. We've got obviously a relative child, a teenager in Nog. We've got his father. We know this other guy was older than him. We've got a grandmother, and then the Grand Nagus clearly older because he's absolutely shriveled. So you look at the life cycle. Now, I would not for a second think this guy is young, like I say, captain, and they're not going to be training new captains at a fast rate because this is after burn. So this guy's probably in his, last half of life, if not last third of life, and medical technology. So if this guy is a 100-year-old Ferengi, whatever, how does he feel now seeing the life cycle of Ferengi shown out in front of you?
Yeah, a lot of people have compared him to Zeg, Grand Nagus. The wrinkles definitely speak to age. So does the rank, honestly. Like, sure, captains are sometimes young, but definitely not always the case. I never even really considered the age until this graphic, so thank you for that. The wrinkles on... Yeah, the matchup is pretty interesting, actually. So yeah, we don't know the age. We don't know if he's pure Ferengi, whatever, so...
No, I think, like I said, this is when people sort of forget, yes, Quark is the Ferengi of Ferengi, but he's a middle-aged man.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And no one's batting an eyelid at Grand Nagus. Now, obviously, he's not lost any of the Ferengi elements, but he's certainly got everything to an extreme, a real extreme. This guy has too. And maybe those points are, like you said, Vulcan points or Romulan points. That would be enough, because all you have to do to connect... Because actually, yeah, if you look at the new guy's eyebrows... they kind of go up a little bit, and so maybe his mum was a Vulcan or Romulan, and so he's got those little bit of points, which kind of remove the connective point between the ear lobes, because that would be the only difference that you do to kind of really make it look more Ferengi. But would that be kind of funny for the Romulan Ferengi hybrid?
It could be anything. That's the thing, and I think a lot of people forget that this is 900 years in the future. But you're right. As you said before, the thing that locks me in is the fact that Discovery does tend to visually reboot things. The Andorians are slightly different. The Tellarites are a little different. The Klingons were massively different. And if you actually compare this guy's face to, let's say, a Riemann from Nemesis, very similar features. Even the ears. One of the first vibes I got off this picture was he was very bat-like because of the ears. And the bat made me think of the Riemanns. And so who knows what's been going on here. So... Lots of visual comparisons for sure.
Yeah, whereas Klingon, there's no justification. They were the same from the 80s to the late 2020s. They were the same for 40 years. You can't keep saying they were rebooted. They were not. They were changed twice, and they were consistent for 40 years. I think at that point, that's set in stone, guys, and guys never quite appreciate that as in the wider audience. The Ferengi were the same the entire time, but the future part takes everything and throws out the window. And we wish we'd seen the Cardassian more in season 3, but very faithful, not much different at all. So I understand the reaction. We all have the same reaction, but we obviously break down things, and as soon as you put another minute's worth of thought in, there's the out clause. It's just, it could have been a little bit similar, but I like the Riemann comparison and the skin tone as well. definitely pulls away, because these are all the exact same skin tone, give or take, Ferengi. I mean, these are all the... Ferengi are orange, right? This guy ain't orange. This guy's a purpley red with a lot of shadowing. And that isn't the lighting, because there's some pretty different lighting in these scenes. This is, you know what I mean? These are Ferengi in... You know, so this guy is definitely... I love... Reeman's a good shout. I think Reeman's a good one there.
So yeah, we don't know what's going on with this guy. I'm sure we won't even get an explanation. It's just going to be like he's going to be one of the captains around the table. It's not going to be a thing. I don't think he's going to be a character that has a speaking line necessarily.
Oh, I think speaking for sure, because you don't go through 3 hours of prosthetics necessarily. I think they want to. I think they want to win points. But the next picture, the last picture of this shirt, is the obvious other comparison, because often you go back to original concept art for ships and whatever, and this is the last of the Andrew Probert concept. He also did some other weird things. I was compared to the young and the old and the new. I mean, the points are there.
I mean, other than that, I mean, yes. That's one of the things, even with Discovery itself, they went back to the Ralph McQuarrie version of the Enterprise, which to draw some inspiration from. So redesigning things, even the Klingon. If you look at the Klingon concept design for the motion picture, it was very much armor, and everything looked very similar to what we saw in Discovery. So if that's what they're doing and trying to, be a touchstone to the concept art, I can understand the points on the ears. It's a little bit different. I mean, the teeth obviously aren't the same and things like that. But again, using the Ferengi aesthetic that we know and love from TNG and DS9, and then also trying to incorporate the concept art, fine. It is what it is. But yeah, I think that huge gap of time, though, like multiple generations that has gone by, anything could happen. So there's no explanation necessarily, or there's many explanations for this actually.
I mean, there's so many Ferengi as well that have variations. You have a very good baseline and blueprint. Like Ferengi look like Ferengi, etc. You have variations of the theme, but they're pretty close. And I do think we're going to get some mention somewhere, even if it's just in a book or as in I know there's audio logs at one point. They'll make a joke that this guy's, like you said, half Riemann, half Ferengi, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm very warlike on my mum's side," and obviously Burnham doesn't know who Ferengi or Riemann are, so it'll be a joke completely lost on her, and that or the crew, and it'll be like, or he'll board the Discovery to take a look, and he gets injured, and Kolb has to scan him, and he's like, I'm sorry, I've never seen a species before. He's like, yeah, I'm one of the few, colonists from the Riemann Ferengi colony on Altrax 3, and he's like, okay, and we're like, ooh, audience, cool, that sounds weird. What? That would be the sort of line, I think. So he's, odd.
That'd be interesting. I don't give them the credit for doing that, though. I think it's going to be like he's standing around, he's part of the captains that gets sent to do something, and that's about it. So I'm calling that right now. But
well, we haven't got long to find out, Stuart. But hopefully you guys found this interesting. We're not as knee-jerk, and a good little analysis. And yes, go back to the canon. That's what you got to do, and you learn more.
Let us know what you think in the comments section. As always, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, notify yourself, all that jazz, and join us for the lives where we discuss this kind of things in real time with you. And we really love that because it opens up whole new conversations that we don't even think of when we do these deep dives. So join us if you can.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if you want to, we do this stuff for free, but that for the direct support if you guys can. Don't worry if you can't, but if you can, please do. PayPal, Patreon, join the channel, Super Chat, all really great ways, each differently good. But if you can do any, please do. Thanks in advance, and we'll see you next time.
That's right. So until then, he's Commander Cocking.
He's Captain Foley.
We are Team Trekyards, and we'll see you 932 years in the future where we will not look the same. I guarantee it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.